So I think a really timely report in terms of the work that's being done, and I think well done to the Rees Centre for starting this debate and for starting this conversation. And I thought that the paper was a hugely important paper. And I think in terms of social work and social care, I think the thoughts around machine learning continues to be quite polarized. And I think with the report provided a number of questions for considerations and approached it in quite a reflective manner, which I think is really welcomed. So as part of preparing for today's talk, I spoke with colleagues across social work and social care sectors. And in terms of my position, I currently hold the chair for the PSW network. So I get to speak with colleagues a lot about machine learning and other points. So specifically in terms of the different questions that were asked, should we be doing this? Can we do this right? And what is to be done? So I think really important questions. And the first one, should we be doing this? A really important question. And I think the empirical evidence suggests that the answer is simple. In terms of technically, yes, we can do this. But ethically, do we have the skills to do this? And our colleagues just mentioned the word moral upskilling, which I think is incredibly important. Why? Because the question is, are we ethically and culturally ready to do this? Do we have the moral compass, the preparation, the ethical education, and the culture, as well as social responsibility needed to take this work forward? And also some of the practical considerations. So when there's issues with practice or recording of data, machine learning may simply encode such inadequacies and deficiencies in current systems. So reflecting on, should we do this? So we know within the public and private sector, people use machine learning and algorithms. An example is the Met Police recently using facial recognition technology. So at the beginning of last year, an independent report highlighted that their system didn't work, they didn't have the right data. And in terms of people being stopped with facial recognition software, it was quite inaccurate. So it was very distressing for people that were being stopped. And the Met was criticised for that. The Met senior technologist, Joanna Morley, she admitted that they needed huge investment in order to upgrade their police IT systems in order to ensure that their lists were correct. And then at the beginning of this year, we know that the Met Police started using live facial recognition cameras in London. So that's an example of use when actually perhaps we're not quite ready. And then thinking about things such as false positives or false negatives, do they represent a lack of regard or simple limitations of technology? So MI is supposed to make our life easier, but it's also prone to amplify sexist and racist bias from the real world. Let's take an example that happened in the US, where the police were using this in order to predict crime. And what the Human Rights Data Analysis Group found was that the software could lead police to unfairly targeting certain neighborhoods. So it was used in a manner that didn't encompass the values or the ethics of social work, for example, which is about anti-discrimination and about supporting young people and children and adults in order to achieve the best outcomes. We know that MI is being used increasingly in public and private sector and that it shapes our choices. But in terms of methodology, we know that there isn't enough transparency around methodology and that we don't have audit processes in order to examine this. So the report highlights the importance of transparent methodology, what's being measured, how is it measured, is it being effectively measured, and the idea of auditing the system, which I think is incredibly important. That's auditing the system and having a watcher that sits outside to ask the right questions. Why? Because we know that local authorities are already using MI. So the idea of having an ethical framework is something that I think would be very welcomed within the sector in order to support colleagues with regards to their thinking. So the second question is, can we do this right? So the report outlines the importance of good quality data, the right data, processing, deliberate model design, as well as testing and validation and training for implementation. And I think that's incredibly important. And if we think about that as a life cycle or an ecosystem, at every point we need to be able to get that right. I think it's also really important to highlight that in terms of machine learning, there isn't a lot of literature or research, particularly around using it in social work or social care. Instead, we've seen health colleagues and police colleagues use it more frequently. And I think one of the reasons for that is that if we think about health colleagues, they use diagnostic measures or diagnostic tools, whereas in social work, we are a relationship-based profession. So in terms of thinking about identification of risk is often more complex in social work. And it's challenging to sometimes make those decisions. And those decisions are complex, are content dependent, and they require professional judgment. And I think that's especially important to consider when we're thinking about machine learning, because, of course, we don't want to disempower practitioners. Practitioners should be empowered in order to be relationship-based practitioners. And it's also really important to kind of recognize that society is changing. Just as algorithms and machine learning impact on our lives as individuals, it impacts on the lives of service users. So the way we have certain expectations in terms of what we expect from services and the speed of services, our service users expect the same thing. We're concerned about data and our data protection, and so are our service users. So it's really important that we're asking the right questions around the ethical use of data. So lastly, what is to be done? So the report highlights 8 key recommendations. The report also offers a helpful framework for those already using machine learning within their local authorities, which I think can be rather helpful. It also sets the stage for a continuous dialogue around ethics, and it acts as a point of reflection. So people can think about the different frameworks, and they can think about how they're using machine learning. It can also be used as a guide for developing internal processes of data scientific innovation. But very importantly, I think this report is the start of a journey. I certainly don't think the report is claiming to have all of the answers, or that the report is claiming to be a blueprint for us. Instead, it's about reflecting, starting to ask the right questions, and very importantly, thinking about the transparency of data and the transparency of machine learning and the methodology around machine learning, as well as the importance of auditing those processes. Thank you.